Good evening and welcome to the City Council's January 25th regular City Council meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with City Council, city staff, and members of the public participating in City Council chambers in accordance with public health regulations for in-person meetings and participating remotely to promote social distancing in this federal, state, and local emergency. I would like to introduce City Council members and staff present in the City Council chambers: Vice Mayor Jen Willison, City Council Member Drew Combs, City Manager Starla Jerome Robinson, Interim City Manager Justin Murphy, and City Clerk Judy Heron. City Council members and staff participating remotely are City Council Member Ray Mueller, City Council Member Cecilia Taylor, and City Attorney Neera Doherty. City Clerk Judy Heron, would you please provide instructions to the City Council and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Mayor Nash. So at this time, we ask our City Council members and staff who are participating remotely to engage your webcams when you are ready to ask questions or provide comments. For members of the public who wish to provide public comment on an item, after the mayor calls for public comment on that item, please engage that hand feature in the bottom of your screen. If you are calling in from a landline or a cell phone, you may press *9 at that time. This does conclude the introductions at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I want to take a moment and recognize businessman and philanthropist John Arriaga, who passed away Monday morning at the age of 84. Well known for his business acumen and prolific giving, Mr. Arriaga was still working 7 days a week and devoting at least half of his time to his philanthropic efforts until his death. He once noted that Menlo Park's been a great spot in my heart because I played basketball at the Burgess Gym starting in 1960. I probably scored more points in that gym than any player in its history because I retired at almost age 60. Mr. Arriaga was the major donor behind several of the buildings here at the Menlo Park Civic Center campus and Burgess Park. These include the Arriaga Family Gymnasium, Arriaga Family Recreation Center, and Arriaga Family Gymnastics Center. He was also the major proponent behind the development near Interstate 280 that includes the Rosewood Hotel. It is rare to have someone with such generosity support public institutions and the community in such innumerable ways. We honor his legacy, not just in terms of the physical buildings he left behind, but in terms of his example of philanthropy that combined financial resources with intelligence, skills, and networks to transform lives. Please join me now in a moment of silence. Thank you. So now we'll proceed with agenda review. Agenda review provides advance notice to members of the public and city staff of any modifications to the agenda order and to any requests from City Council members under City Council member reports. Staff has requested we call for closed session public comment immediately following item E, general public comment. Does the City Council wish to pull or modify any agenda items? And I actually cannot see at the moment, Councilmember Taylor or, okay, thank you. Mueller, yes, thank you.
City Council Member Mueller?
Yeah, I was just gonna, is now the time to say I want to pull something from consent?
Yes, it is.
So I'd like to pull item F3.
F3, thank you very much. All right. City Clerk Heron, do we have any public comments on our proclamations, items D1, D2, or D3?
Thank you, Mayor Nash. So at this time, if any member of the public wishes to speak on any of our proclamations this evening, D1, proclamation condemning anti-Semitism, D2, proclamation taking a stand against human trafficking in the Bay Area, or D3, proclamation recognizing Starla Jerome Robinson, please engage that hand feature in the bottom of your screen. If you're calling in from a landline or a cell phone, please press *9 now. So again, this is public comment for all of our proclamations this evening, D1, D2, and D3. Please engage that hand feature or press *9 now. Seeing no hands raised, Mayor Nash, you may continue.
Thank you. D1, Proclamation condemning anti-Semitism. Whereas anti-Semitism remains a serious and growing danger for Jews in the United States and around the world, and whereas anti-Semitism is a centuries-old bigotry and form of hate faced by Jewish people simply because they are Jews, often involving the use of stereotypes and myths, and whereas nearly 1 in 4 Jewish Americans said they experienced anti-Semitism in the past year, according to a study released on October 25th, 2021 by the American Jewish Committee. And whereas according to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, nearly 60% of religious-based hate crimes in 2020 targeted Jewish Americans, who make up no more than 2% of the US population. And whereas according to the Anti-Defamation League report, 2024 anti-Semitic incidences were reported nationwide in 2020, the 3rd highest year on record, and 289 incidences occurred in California. And whereas on January 15th, 2022, in Colleyville, Texas, a man with a gun entered Congregation Beth Israel during services and took 3 congregants and a rabbi as hostages. And in California, recent anti-Semitic incidents have included flyers at Santa Monica elementary schools linking Jewish people to the COVID-19 pandemic and the anti-vaccine movement. In Santa Rosa, vandalism of a Holocaust memorial statue, and in Los Angeles, 2 Jewish diners were assaulted outside a restaurant after the assailants asked who were Jewish. And whereas Jewish neighbors in our own community are fearful of the current uptick in anti-Semitic incidents and hateful rhetoric, and whereas the city of Menlo Park has a duty to speak out against all forms of discrimination and hate and draws its strength from its diverse population, of which many self-identify as Jewish. And now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Betsy Nash, Mayor of the City of Menlo Park, on behalf of the City Council and City, hereby condemn anti-Semitism and stand with the Jewish people. I'd now like to introduce Tyler Gregory, CEO of the Jewish Community Relations Council, to accept.
Good evening, and thank you so much for having me. And I just want to applaud all of you for taking this really important step. It's no secret that the past couple of weeks have been very challenging for our community after the events in Colleyville, Texas, in which 4 members of a Reformed synagogue were held hostage for several hours. While we're grateful that they were, they escaped successfully, and we're so happy that the first responders were able to get them out, it really underscored a rise in anti-Semitism that we've been experiencing over the past few years. And it's a troubling reminder of the Pittsburgh shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue, at the Chabad of Poway, and of course, on everyday anti-Semitism. We don't have to wait for a terrible incident like this to recognize that, like racism and homophobia and transphobia, anti-Semitism is a systemic form of oppression that we need to uproot from American society. And that also is an imperative here in the Bay Area. So I applaud you. I want to thank the mayor. I want to thank Vice Mayor Wallison for her partnership in our community as well, and the council for taking this incredibly important step. And we look forward to working with you and the council to make sure that not just the Jewish community, but all of us are happy and included and have a thriving and just future in Menlo Park and across the Bay Area. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Willison.
I want to say thank you to the Jewish Community Relations Council for working on this proclamation and for all the work they do educating and advocating for social justice issues that are foundational to Jewish values. And I want to thank Mayor Nash for speaking up for the Jewish people and for condemning anti-Semitism. As many of you know, I am Jewish, and this proclamation is very personal to me, my family, my friends, and my community. As Martin Luther King once said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that." By shining a light on anti-Semitism tonight, the Jewish community of Menlo Park feels loved and supported, and that matters. I have received many emails and calls over the last few days from Jewish neighbors grateful that Menlo Park is speaking out. Anti-Semitism includes blaming Jews when things go wrong, calling for, aiding, or justifying the killing or harming of Jews in the name of a radical ideology or extremist view of religion, or making dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotyped allegations. Anti-Semitism also includes the belief that Jews control the media, the United States government, and seek global political and financial domination, and that Jews are obsessed with money. At the core of anti-Semitism is a myth that there is a secret cabal of Jews that conspire and have power over all spheres of life. The Atlantic had an excellent article last week by Yair Rosenberg titled, "Why So Many People Still Don't Understand Anti-Semitism." In it, Rosenberg writes, "The notion that a minuscule, only 2% of the population, and an unmanageable minority secretly controls the world is comical, which may be why so many responsible people still do not take anti-Semitic conspiracy theory seriously or even understand how it works." Rosenberg goes on to write, "Unlike many other bigotries, anti-Semitism is not merely a social prejudice. It is a conspiracy theory about how the world operates. The fevered fantasy of Jewish domination is incredibly malleable, which makes it incredibly attractive. If Jews are responsible for every perceived problem, then people with entirely opposite ideals can adopt it. And thanks to centuries of material blaming the world's ills on the world's Jews, conspiracy theorists seeking a scapegoat for their sorrows inevitably discover that the invisible hand of their oppressor belongs to an invisible Jew." The author goes on to quote a Black civil rights activist who fights white nationalism, Eric Ward, in saying, "Anti-Semitism isn't just bigotry toward the Jewish community. It is actually utilizing bigotry toward the Jewish community in order to deconstruct democratic practices, and does so by framing democracy as a conspiracy rather than a tool of empowerment or a functional tool of government." Rosenberg states this point by saying, "The more people buy into anti-Semitism and its understanding of the world, the more they lose faith in democracy." We are at a moment of time in our country when the future of democracy is uncertain. White supremacists and those looking for ways to undermine our system of government and sow division in our communities will use whatever tools they can do so. This is why it is so important to be able to recognize anti-Semitism and to condemn it. I am proud to be part of the Menlo Park City Council for putting forth this proclamation and for shining this light so that darkness will be no more. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Willison and Mr. Gregory. The next proclamation is D2, taking a stand against human trafficking in the Bay Area. Whereas the United States Senate designated January 11th as National Human Trafficking Awareness Day in 2007, and beginning in 2010 by presidential proclamation, each January has been designated National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month. And whereas human trafficking involves commercial sexual exploitation and labor exploitation, sex trafficking is defined as a commercial sex act that is induced by force, fraud, or coercion. But if the person has not attained the age of 18 years old, force, fraud, or coercion is not required. Labor trafficking is defined as the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for labor or services through the use of force, fraud, or coercion for the purpose of subjection to involuntary servitude, peonage, debt bondage, or slavery. And whereas human trafficking is a human rights violation and a violation of both federal and California law, it also promotes the breakdown of families and communities, fuels organized crime, deprives countries of human capital, undermines public health, and imposes large economic costs. And whereas the FBI has identified California and the San Francisco Bay Area as an area of high prevalence for human trafficking. Although human trafficking is illegal, victims often do not recognize their victimization, do not know that help is available, or where to seek assistance. And whereas forced labor, involuntary domestic servitude, and commercial sexual exploitation of adults and youth and have been found to exist within local communities. And whereas public awareness about human trafficking still needs to reach broader communities and communicate more information about the nuances of this crime. And whereas the County of San Mateo has dedicated resources, including the San Mateo County Human Trafficking Program, and has supported the efforts of the San Mateo County Police Chiefs and Sheriff Association, and has partnered with other governmental and non-governmental organizations to identify and address human trafficking within San Mateo County. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Betsy Nash, Mayor of the City of Menlo Park, on behalf of the City Council and City, do hereby recognize January 2022 as Human Trafficking Prevention Month and encourage council members, employees, and residents to support the County of San Mateo's efforts in the fight against human trafficking. Pamela Estes, Human Trafficking Program Coordinator, is here to accept it.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Nash and council members. Thank you so much for your time tonight and for putting this important proclamation on your agenda to raise awareness about the crime of human trafficking that occurs in our community. I'm Pamela Estes. I'm the Human Trafficking Program Coordinator for San Mateo County, and I graciously accept this proclamation. Unfortunately, many people still believe that human trafficking is a crime that only happens in other countries or other communities, but it actually happens here in San Mateo County. It happens to boys and girls and men and women, those who are undocumented, foreign nationals, and United States citizens. In fact, in 2021, we conducted a voluntary assessment with many of the organizations within our county and agencies to determine the scope and prevalence of human trafficking in San Mateo County. And of the 20 responses that we received from the agencies in our area, there was a range of about 286 to 306 human trafficking victims that were identified in our county that had some connection to San Mateo County during the year 2020. We're currently working on our 2021 assessment. The Human Trafficking Program was created in 2015. It funds 2 part-time coordinator positions. One position is currently unfilled. The San Mateo County Human Trafficking Program is a San Mateo County Sheriff's Program, and we take some direction from the Police Chiefs and Sheriff's Association. The program is responsible for enhancing the response to human trafficking countywide. We do that in a couple of different ways. We seek to encourage collaborative partnerships between agencies and non-governmental organizations, and we work to enhance the delivery of services available to victims in our county, and then also support and do some training for law enforcement, in addition to providing training and education to the community to raise awareness. In fact, we have a 3-part film series that's going to start in February, and there'll be 1 film a month, February, March, and April. These will all be virtual with a panel of experts following the film. The Human Trafficking Program also has a monthly meeting that was started about 4 years ago. We meet on the second Tuesday of every month from 12:30 to 2, and anyone is in the county is invited to join us to learn more about the county's response to human trafficking. I can be reached at stophumantrafficking@smc.gov.org, and the Human Trafficking Program also has a website. It's stophumantraffickingsmc.org. So I just want to thank you for passing this resolution here tonight. And I don't think it was mentioned in the resolution, but there are some important, just brief things to note. If you identify anyone who's in immediate danger, please dial 911. If you have suspicious circumstances that you want to report, you can report those to law enforcement, but you can also use the human trafficking hotline. It's a great number to tuck into your contacts because you don't need to know where you are. A lot, people on vacation who might be staying in hotels or in different tourism areas may see something that's suspicious, but not exactly know the right jurisdiction to call. The National Human Trafficking Hotline number is available anywhere in the United States, and it's supported by over 120 languages. It's a number to report suspicious circumstances, but also if you are victimized, it's a number to call to actually find resources in the area that you are located. So the National Human Trafficking Hotline is 1-888-373-7888. And they started a text line a couple of years ago, and they're getting increasing volume through their text line. And that is 233-733. Again, that's 233-733. So you can text that number for information or help. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you very much, Ms. Estes. Our next proclamation is to recognize our outgoing city manager, Starla Jerome Robinson. Whereas the city council wishes to show appreciation to Starla Jerome Robinson for her service and commitment to our city and wish her well on her retirement from public service. And whereas Starla Jerome Robinson is a longtime Menlo Park resident and joined the city of Menlo Park as the assistant city manager in 2008. And whereas on October 29th, 2018, Starla rejoined the city of Menlo Park team as its interim city manager, and on April 1st, 2019, she accepted the permanent position of city manager. And whereas Starla has demonstrated an unwavering dedication and fortitude in leading the city during the COVID-19 pandemic, demonstrating leadership by quickly adopting technological systems that allowed many city services to continue and staff to effectively and efficiently perform their duties while working remotely. And whereas the city of Menlo Park undertook several projects to ensure a high quality of life for residents during Starla's tenure, including project approval and start of construction on the Menlo Park Community Campus, adoption of the city's transportation master plan, repaving Willow Road with quiet asphalt and new speed feedback signs, adoption of the city's REACH code and the 2030 climate action plan, initiation of the housing element update, including the preparation of the city's first environmental justice element and safety element, establishing a citywide Safe Routes to School program, overseeing the move to fully districted council elections, hired and transitioned to a new police chief, and kept city childcare services running during the pandemic. And whereas Starla demonstrated her support of local businesses by adopting modifications citywide to encourage outdoor dining and activities in the face of the pandemic. And whereas Starla showed great care for her employees' health and safety and wellness during the pandemic and conducted bi-weekly Thursday mornings with Starla webinars to communicate and connect with all employees, resulting in a team of professionals who performed their good work for our residents. And whereas Starla demonstrated resourcefulness and creativity in working with the city council and all members of the management team. And whereas Starla is well respected and trusted in her profession and by her colleagues, and will be missed for her genuineness, depth of knowledge, and passion for public service and the city of Menlo Park. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Betsy Nash, Mayor of the city of Menlo Park, on behalf of the city council and the city, congratulate and express our sincere gratitude to Starla Jerome Robinson for her loyalty and service over the past years, and wish her well on her retirement.
Well, thank you, Mayor Nash, and all members of the City Council. It has been my pleasure and honor and constant battle, I would say, to serve as city manager, and I've really appreciated that opportunity. I do want to thank my family first, because I keep forgetting to thank them. Oh my gosh, my poor husband is so wonderful. But I also want to thank the council and the community and all of the team players that I've worked with over the years. And I would just call out the Chamber of Commerce in particular. I think, there's always a synergistic team effort between the chamber and the city, and any city I've worked in it. And our chamber is especially dedicated. So I really appreciate that. So thank you for all that kindness. We all know that it took a huge team to do that work, not me, but I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Can I just add one more thing? we did an all hands meeting, which we call Thursday mornings with Starla. And my favorite part was when we would have guest stars join because I didn't have to do as much work. And I think it was really engaging for the employees. So I appreciate the team's creativity with coming up with all of that.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Willison.
Yeah, I just wanted to wish you all the best, Starla, on your retirement and with your family. You onboarded me when I was a new council member and you were extremely welcoming. And I really appreciate that. You've always been, very calm and gracious, and that energy has been greatly appreciated. And I really wish you well.
Interim City Manager Justin Murphy, was your light on to speak? No. Okay. Anyone else? Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate all you've done. So let's see. Under public comment, the public may address the City Council on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the City Council once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. Please clearly state your name and address or political jurisdiction in which you live. The City Council cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the City Council cannot respond to non-agenda items brought up under the public comment other than to provide general information. I will call for public comment at the appropriate time for members of the public to address the City Council on any item under agenda sections, consent calendar, public hearings, regular business, information reports. City Clerk Judy Heron, please call for general public comment.
Thank you, Mayor Nash. So at this time, if any member of the public wishes to speak on an item that is not on tonight's agenda, please engage that hand feature in the bottom of your screen. If you are calling in from a landline or a cell phone, you may press *9 now. So this will be the final call for public comment on item E, which is our general public comment for items not on tonight's agenda. Ashley Quintana.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. This is Ashley Quintana from Meta, also known as Facebook. And I'm so thrilled to take a quick moment and share with you all that we're doing a soft opening for our Meta Park and Bike Ped Bridge located at 1 Facebook Way off Choco Street this Saturday, January 29th. So this is a community space that is designed to encourage biking and walking. And so we hope many will enjoy the outdoors. And unfortunately, due to COVID surge, we're holding off on our ribbon cutting ceremony, but stay tuned for a celebration that we are hoping to have in the spring. So we'll be presenting more details on these amenities tomorrow at the Park and Rec Commission meeting. So feel free to join and learn more about the open space. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And seeing no further hands raised, Mayor Nash, you may continue.
Thank you very much. City Clerk Heron, could you please call for public comment for closed session item K1?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Nash. So at this time, we're going to be calling for public comment for our closed session item, which is later on this evening on the agenda. It's item K1, conference with legal counsel for existing litigation. For any member of the public who wishes to speak on our closed session item K1, please engage that hand feature in the bottom of your screen. If you're calling in from a landline or a cell phone, you may press *9 now. This will be the final call for public comment on our closed session item K1. Seeing no hands raised, Mayor Nash, you may continue.
Thank you. Under the consent calendar, the city council may take action to approve routine business items in one motion unless a city council member, city staff member, or a member of the public requests that an item be discussed or continued to a later date. City Clerk Judy Heron, please call for public comment on the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mayor Nash. So at this time, if any member of the public wishes to speak on our consent calendar items, F1, adoption of the city council meeting minutes, F2, approving the city council community funding subcommittee's recommendations, F3, waiving the competitive bidding process and authorizing the execution of an agreement with Optimi for the MPCC project, F4, a resolution accepting the FEMA BRIC grant funds. F5, award a construction contract for the Middle Avenue and Nealon Park pedestrian improvement project. And F6, award of a contract for the Suburban Park and Flood Triangle neighborhood project. Please engage that hand feature in the bottom of your screen. If you're calling in from a landline or a cell phone, you may press *9 now. And our first speaker will be Bill Kirsch. And Bill, I'll ask you to announce the agenda item that you are commenting on.
Yes, thank you. This is Bill Kirsch. It's F5, the Middle Avenue crossing to the park from Blake. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Bill.
Okay. City Council members and Mayor Nash, thank you so much for your selfless work for the city. I really appreciate it. John Weiner and I submitted some suggestions to make the Middle Avenue crossing safer, as well as other suggestions to make the entire Middle Avenue corridor from El Camino Real all the way to Olive a safe corridor for all users. Right now, it's really just a high-speed freeway, as you all know. Anybody that uses Middle Avenue from El Camino, passing Safeway, Nealon Park, it is not a safe road for anybody that's not in an automobile. And I think as a city, we're trying to reduce vehicle miles traveled. I believe we're trying to encourage walking and bicycling. So I'd like to see the city and the staff work really hard to make the Middle Avenue crossing safer. For example, John Weiner and I made the following suggestions to provide a raised crosswalk from Blake to the park. And we can have cutouts for emergency vehicles. We've asked that the trash bins be moved. They're currently blocking pedestrians as they cross from Blake over to access the park. There's no bicycle parking as you enter the park from Blake and cross on the crosswalk. There is continuous parking all the way across, which blocks safe bicycle access to the park. And we'd like to see left turn controls to and from Blake Avenue. And also I understand there'll be public reach out for more work on the Middle Avenue corridor. And I just want to remind the council that the city has this climate action plan, but really what's missing, the elephant in the room, is the automobile, and we need to provide options for people. I can't think of anyone that would take their child on a bicycle and try to cross Middle Avenue to get to the park, but that should not be. We should make it safe and accessible for folks with children to ride their bikes to and from that park, for people to safely cross Middle. So thank you for your work. And again, please work hard to make the Middle Avenue corridor and this crossing from Blake as safe as you possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. So this will be the final call for public comment on tonight's consent calendar, items F1 through F6. Seeing no further hands raised, Mayor Nash, you may continue.
Thank you very much. And I'd like first to go to Councilmember Mueller, who pulled item F3, and see whether you would, shall we pull that from the consent calendar, or is that a short item or a short?
I'm going to ask that it actually be pulled.
Okay, so please go ahead with that.
Okay, so I'm just can make a comment real quick. I've gone through F3 and basically just to share with staff where I'm on it. And I can test on something who pulled it that my colleagues may not feel the same, but I actually have a problem with waiving the competitive bidding process. So it's a six-figure dollar amount, and the subject matter is one that actually I think we should be doing competitive bidding on, because in the area of clean energy, what we always say is prices are going to drop over time. Well, if we don't create a marketplace, they never will. And so I'm, for that reason, on this item, I really would have liked to see it go out to bid. There are great reasons put forth in the staff report of why I think Optimi would potentially win that bid. But I at a dollar figure at that amount with that subject matter, I would wanted to see that actually go out. So for that reason, I'm going to be voting against the item tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any staff comments to feedback on that? Interim city manager.
Yes, I believe that our sustainability manager, Rebecca Lucky, could address that at a high level for the council.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Nash, Vice Mayor Wilson, and council members. Thank you, Councilmember Mueller, for your comments. Yeah, there's kind of probably competing timelines on some of these. So if we did go out to a bid process, it would probably take us about 3 to 6 months to get someone on board. And so, potential risk to that is we do need Optimi at this time to kind of help shepherd through the renewable microgrid project for the MPCC. So that's one area. But other firms were contacted. There are, and this is for energy consulting services, and just helping us do analysis and making sure that we're able to access timely incentives, and that staff from various departments, from police to public works, can get analysis on eliminating fossil fuels from some of our assets if they happen to be changed out. And we're looking at vehicle purchases again this year. So it's just kind of syncing up infrastructure that's needed for our future. And so I just would just highlight those kind of trade-offs and going with a RFP process, but we can certainly do that if the council desires.
Councilmember Mueller, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I mean, I understand. I understand what Ms. Lucky is saying, and I appreciate it. The only issue I have is that, so I guess I should just ask, would we have been able to go out to, is there a timeline under which we would have been able to go out to bid in a competitive process on this contract?
I think the time, it's pretty difficult. So I just came off of the procurement process and working with Optimi. So there wasn't very much time to kind of gear up in between, and also just carry out the council's actions on cap number 5 and to kind of keep that ball rolling. We've got a shortage of staff in public works too. So, I mean, they've really kind of helped fill in a lot of gaps. They've done more probably than their scope of work originally to kind of really help when we lost our engineering services manager and assistant public works director on that front.
Ms. Lucky, I understand that the pressure that you've been under and put on to deliver this all in a timely fashion. So in talking about it with you, I'm recollecting just how much that there's been a push timeline. You've convinced me to go ahead and vote for the item, but I would say to both you and to my colleagues, this is not a practice that we want to be in. where we're going to be approving contracts this large without competitive bidding. Like it's not a practice that we want to be in. And I'll take Miss Lucky, and I'd take Miss Lucky at her word that she reached out to the other consultants and got bids from them. But so I will, on this one occasion, go ahead and vote for it. But I in the future I won't. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilmember Mueller, I appreciate you bringing this up because I agree that it is good to go out for a competitive bid process. Thank you. I also want to thank Mr. Kirsch and Mr. Weiner for their input on the Middle Avenue, and I do know that we will be looking at Middle Avenue comprehensively very soon, and the complete streets. And we'll certainly take a look at your input, which has already been discussed with staff and was very, very much appreciated. Thank you. So with that, is there a motion on the table and a second to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Vice Mayor Willison. Councilmember Combs.
Yeah, I actually wanted to make a comment and I just want to, and so I want to understand that the item related to the Optimi consulting service is in relation to the community center microgrid and general consultancy regarding the climate action plan. Is that correct? And so again, so I wanted to just sort of put out there, because Ms. Lucky talked about sort of resources and staff and constraints there and some vacancies in public works. I do want to make note that I have concerns with regards to our climate action plan that I don't have complete visibility into the staff resources that are going into this process and what trade-offs we are making in connection with the usage of those resources. And so I'm supportive of moving forward, but this does concern me. We are a relatively small city with relatively limited staff ability, and certainly I understand the priority here, but I do think that and as a result, then the public doesn't have clear visibility into all of the staff resources, and then what other things don't happen or what other things are delayed. And so I do want to put that out there, and I will, since you let me go on my soapbox, I will second the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion on the floor by Vice Mayor Willison and a second by City Council Member Combs to accept the consent calendar. Any further City Council question or discussion? Seeing none, by roll call vote, City Council Member Combs,
Yes.
City Council Member Mueller,
Yes.
City Council Member Taylor,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Willison,
Yes.
Mayor Nash.
Yes,
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
thank you. Under regular business, the City Council considers recommendations from staff on policy matters or administrative actions that require City Council approval. The first regular business item is G1, adopt an urgency ordinance temporarily closing the northbound travel lane on the 600 block of Santa Cruz Avenue and a portion of Ryan's Lane, and authorizing the establishment and issuance of temporary outdoor activity permits, allowing businesses to safely conduct their businesses outdoors during the COVID-19 state of emergency. To introduce the item is Interim City Manager Justin Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor Nash and City Council. And I will be giving the introduction to this item this evening. So next slide, please. So as the mayor just stated, tonight's action in front of the city council is the adoption of an urgency ordinance. The city council has approved a number of urgency ordinances over the past 20 months, have been reviewed at multiple meetings of the city council. So this is part of the continuation of that process, given the current state of the pandemic. So there's two primary actions related to travel lanes, two specific blocks downtown, and then the ability to continue outdoor activities during this state of emergency. So next slide, please. So the focus of a lot of discussion and debate over the past 20 months has been related to some of the downtown street closures. So during that process, the city council has had multiple steps where it's experimented with different street closures, and most recently in December, the city council received a report from the city manager that the one block was going to be reopening. So that was the 800 block of Santa Cruz Avenue, and that is now open to vehicular traffic. So at this point in time, there are two remaining blocks downtown that are currently closed to vehicular traffic to enable businesses to have more space for outdoor activities. So those two locations, one is on the left of the screen is Ryan's Lane. It's about a 50-foot long stretch adjacent to Carpaccio's. And then the second larger, more prominent location is in the 600 block between Curtis Street and Doyle Street, adjacent to some businesses such as Left Bank and Bistro Vita. So with this urgency ordinance, these two blocks would remain closed to vehicular traffic while the current emergency is in place. As you all are well aware, the virus is very transmissible, especially its variants. So, and we can't necessarily predict the future. It's at some point in time, hopefully, the emergency is over and beyond us. So this urgency ordinance, as proposed, does not have an end date, because we realize that it's difficult to predict those, but at some point it will come to an end and these powers would go away. So next slide, please. So what's attached to the staff report is an urgency ordinance. So maybe similarities to what the council and the community has seen previously. It was updated urgency ordinance. It's applicable to those in terms of the street closure. It's the two specific blocks that were shown on this preceding slide and the exhibit to the ordinance. In addition, the ordinance allows for the temporary outdoor use permit. So there's a number of businesses that are currently able to use parking spaces, either public parking spaces on streets, in parking plazas, or private properties to conduct businesses outdoor to minimize the transmission of the virus. So that summarizes the actions and recommendation of staff. There are definitely businesses in support of the closures. There are businesses that have expressed displeasure with the closure. The action that the city council need to take this evening as an urgency ordinance would require a 4/5 vote. So 4 of the 5 council members voting in the affirmative. As part of this recommendation and in the staff report, staff does identify that we'll be coming back at a future time as needed in terms of additional reviews of the activities downtown in particular. And at some point, there is a potential to, if the urgency ordinance is no longer applicable, there is another potential for the city council to consider to maintain some street closures. And so staff does intend to return this calendar year with some of those options as well. So that summarizes the staff presentation. Myself and others are available to assist with any questions.
Thank you very much. City Clerk Judy Heron, please call for public comments on this item.
Thank you, Mayor Nash. So at this time, if any member of the public wishes to speak on item G1 related to an urgency ordinance temporarily closing the northbound 600 block of Santa Cruz Avenue and a portion of Ryan's Lane, please engage that hand feature in the bottom of your screen. If you're calling in from a landline or a cell phone, please press *9 now. And our first speaker will be Kathleen Daly.
Hello, and thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you to the council, to the city managers, the staff, for everyone that put this program together. I can speak for only my small little cafe in the Willows, but I think overall the restaurant industry, cafe industry would tell you that this project or program saved a lot of us from going completely under. I know that we live in Northern California. We have some of the most beautiful weather in the world. We can do this. We can be outside. We should be outside. A lot of us don't have a lot of extra space and I'm really considering whether or not we will open back up for any indoor seating. So this program has really saved our lives. I know that for some, it is a problem with parking. I'd like to think that all of us could get creative in terms of finding ways for disabled or elderly to make it into the stores and go to the places where they need to go. But I know that without a doubt, this has saved our industry. I'm actually hopeful that it will become permanent. I know the Willows community loves the outdoor space. They talk about feeling like they're in Europe or Paris or anywhere other than they're home for the moment. They really enjoy sitting outside. It brings a sense of community, one more step towards community, and just being outdoors is what we can do. And I know I'm forever grateful for you allowing my business to be outside. And I'm hopeful that I can come back and ask you at some point in the future to cover my space a little bit and keep it permanent. I think it's a great addition. And like I said, I think we should all work together to try to come up with some parking challenges, especially for the businesses downtown. But once again, I'm so grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker will be Oros.
Hello, this is Vasily Oros. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
I just joined the meeting. I wasn't sure if it's too late in the game and what we are talking about, the north portion of Santa Cruz Avenue or Willows?
Correct. We are discussing item number G1, which is adopt an urgency ordinance temporarily closing the northbound travel lane of the 600 block of Santa Cruz Avenue and a portion of Ryan's Lane, and authorizing the establishment and issuance of a temporary outdoor activity permit, allowing businesses to safely conduct their businesses outdoors during the COVID-19 state of emergency.
Is this including the traffic or just the parklets which are already taken there? is the traffic, the proposal is to close for the traffic for the cars?
Hello, Oris. This is Mayor Betsy Nash. And yes, this is the, you are on the correct agenda item right now. You would want to speak on this. It is for closing both the street and it's for both the street closure and the parklets.
All right, then I believe I heard the other speaker, they were thankful for the outdoor space. Yes, this section of the street has 2 restaurants, which they already have nice parklets, I think, and they have yes, the sidewalk, the parklets, which it's plenty, I believe. They don't need much more. Most of the time I've been there, it's unused, and to close 24/7 and give a message to every neighboring communities, our street is closed for 2 hours in the evening, doesn't make any sense. If it would make sense, if their life depend on it, I understand, we will all sacrifice, but just for maximum 2 hours a day, 1 or 2 tables there doesn't make any sense. I think there's enough room on the parklets, and I believe it's the whole business community is suffering because of what? Of nothing. It's 2 tables. That's it. They have so much, they always, it's empty. All the parklets are empty and they have 2 or 3 tables in the middle of the street. It's just a joke. And I believe it's time to stop that. Just let the traffic open our town and they enjoy the nice parklets, you know. And even that's a sacrifice, because for us to build the parking, it's $100,000, you know, and to kill all these parking spaces, I understand. We owe it to the restaurant community and because we love them. But why should we shut off the whole street, the whole downtown? It doesn't make any sense. And we have complaints every day in the store about this. Elderly people have a big problem. They come in Ace Hardware and they keep complaining when they will open, when they will open. You know, it doesn't make any sense. It's Bistro Vida and Left Bank, 2 restaurants which sometimes they use it, but they have enough. I think they can use what they have. It's maybe in weekends. In weekends they can take advantage, but for 24/7 to keep that closed, it doesn't make sense. They don't benefit enough to justify it. And yes, that's our opinion. All the business communities in downtown feels the same. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker will be Alex Beltramo.
Hello, Mayor Nash, council members. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Great. I'm Alex Beltramo. I live and shop in the downtown. My family's had a business in Menlo Park of one form or another since before there were cars. And my mom currently has a business on the 800 block of Santa Cruz Avenue. So I want to start by saying I fully support the parklets. My concern is that the road is blocked. And also I want to thank the council for opening the 800 block ahead of schedule. That was great. One nitpick, the reason given was for reopening ahead of schedule was that the closed road wasn't being used. But I don't think that was the problem. I think the problem there was that the blocked road, it wasn't that it wasn't being used, it was that the road was blocked. And because it was blocked, we had cars diverted through side streets and parking lots. We had bikes diverted any which way, often going down the wrong side of the road. Cars would do that too. It was a mess. And I get it, people don't like cars driving fast on Santa Cruz Avenue, but a roadblock just means that those drivers are going to drive fast through a parking lot, which I think is worse. So thank you for opening the road there. However, Santa Cruz Avenue is still blocked. And on the 600 block, it's got the exact same problems as that we had on the 800 block. If you're coming from the west and you're trying to get to a business, towards the El Camino, or maybe you just want to get a bagel and then go to the train station, you can't do it. You can't. You're diverted onto Curtis Street past a pedestrian crosswalk. Then you have to turn left and go through a cramped parking lot, and then turn left on Doyle, and then right again through another crosswalk to get back on your way. Or if you're coming from the east and you've done your shopping or errands in the downtown, you just want to go home, you want to go back to the El Camino and turn right and go home. You can't do it. You have to turn right on Curtis and then have to deal with turning left on Menlo Avenue, which is difficult. Cars are driving fast on Menlo Avenue. If there's trucks or vans on the side there, visibility is bad. If the sun is set, it's dark there. There's very little lighting. It's very dangerous. And that's right where Trader Joe's is. So you've got all of that congestion as well. And so these cars are backed up, waiting in line because of this detour, so they can make a dangerous left turn onto Menlo Ave. And so this is really bad. And so I asked the city to consider the broad effects of these roadblocks and the effect they have on everyone coming in to town. It's a bad experience. And I'm really optimistic about the future of the downtown and the ways that the city can work with the businesses. And I think we will revitalize it, but it's not going to come from roadblocks. It's going to come from the basics: parking, accessibility, and yes, making it easy for people to come in and out of the downtown. So I thank you for your time, and I hope that you let the roadblocks expire on schedule so that we can reopen our town. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. So this will be the final call for public comment on item G1. Our next speaker will be Fran Dean.
Thank you. Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. Good evening, Mayor, council members, Fran Dean, Menlo Park Chamber of Commerce. Thanks so much for the opportunity to comment this evening on the street closures and the temporary outdoor activity permits. It isn't a simple subject, and I think that we need to say that this is a historical discourse. It's one of concept to design and refinement, which unfortunately was caused to prematurely blossom during COVID without a whole lot of planning. Work on the specific plan introduced Menlo Park to the outdoors, that is paseos, gathering venues, and in particular dining options. Based on success, the outdoor dining pilot approved by council in 2014 was quickly expanded to 6 restaurants and 1 retail operation in 2016. Unfortunately, the test for a downtown gathering venue was not met with the same success due to location and lack of ownership. For Menlo Park and likewise other neighboring cities, COVID changed everything. And Menlo Park's urgency implementation of street closures and temporary outdoor permitting was a survival measure. As with all cities, modifications were iterative, trying to find a COVID equilibrium for businesses. Menlo Park's most recent change was the opening of the 800 block, which was referenced earlier, and that was done prior to the holidays since the traffic lanes in that block were not being utilized by neighboring businesses. So tonight's evaluation focuses on temporary outdoor permits in general and the remaining street segment or lane that is currently closed to traffic. As noted in the staff report, the chamber recommends extension of both. In terms of dining, as Kathleen Daly mentioned, this is a survival measure. We are not beyond COVID. Many patrons do not feel comfortable eating indoors. Outside dining will continue to be the norm, as it was in the 6 initial parklets approved in 2016. No new restaurateur will seek out space that does not include an outside extension. We should maintain temporary outdoor permits until standards can be developed. And in terms of street closure, the street segments provide the sole downtown gathering place. It's a safe public area for teens to gather. It's used for entertainment, youth bands, restaurants, and now a weekly marketplace. The restaurant expansion is successful there, and the 600 block creates activity and attraction that was previously non-existent in the downtown. As council members, please consider the recommendation of your economic consulting group. That is, yes to outside dining, yes to gathering places, and yes to encouraging creativity and vibrancy. Please continue on course and define the preferred extension period. But during that time, direct staff to develop consistent design standards for outdoor permitting. Reference work being established by other cities and then tailor it to Menlo Park standards. Then at the end of the extension period, standards will have been established for those businesses that choose to move forward with outdoor options. We value everyone's input in the process. This is a difficult process, but most of all, we encourage everyone to come together as we recover from COVID. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. And I'm seeing no further hands raised. Mayor Nash, you may continue.
Thank you very much. And thank you to all the public commenters. It is very important to hear from the public. We've also had numerous emails about this very important subject, and we will now open it for City Council discussion. Who would like to kick it off? Councilman.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Nash. I actually have a clarification question to make sure I'm understanding the recommendation. And so with regards to the parklets and the usage of off-street parking spaces, the recommendation is that that continue on a month-to-month basis as far as timeline. But with regards to the closures of Santa Cruz and Ryan, the recommendation there on the timeline is that that be unlimited until the council comes and acts counter.
Yes, so maybe I'll take the first stab at that. And I'm also seeing the city attorney come on. So would you like to start, City Attorney Doherty, or have me go?
Go for it, Justin.
Yes. So I believe in some respects they kind of go hand in hand, because both of these actions through this urgency ordinance are tied to the fact that of the pandemic. So at some point in time, the urgency ordinance, as I said, hopefully does indeed go away. So this, I think the difference here may be that the month-to-month side is that there may be other instances for which the city may need to utilize the space. So we just need to make sure that the operators are on notice that they're, I believe that the city does have the right to kind of, for any of the spaces in the public right of way, we have the ability to give them notice on that. So that's part of the month-to-month aspect.
And so,
I apologize.
You go, and we'll see if my question still remains after you go.
Okay. So the city's authority to adopt the urgency ordinance, as the interim city manager said, stems from the state of emergency related to COVID-19. So once that emergency subsides and the justification for the urgency with which we're adopting, with which the council may adopt this ordinance this evening, goes away, then the ordinance would need to be repealed by the city council, or would terminate by its own terms. We'd always recommend that we take an affirmative action to terminate it, but it would survive and remain effective for the duration of the emergency.
So that I think I understand. So my question is, why aren't we why with regards to the off-street parking, we use the term month to month, and we don't use that with regards to the street closures. Mr. Murphy suggested it provides notice to the businesses, but I would think that notice already exists. At any point, we can go and say, oh, we're gonna, as the same with a road, we can say we're gonna revert this to the original purpose. So my concern is this the sort of seemingly disparate language in treatment. It seems with regards to the two different sort of acts that are occurring here. Because if we look at Ryan's Lane, essentially Carpaccio is using that as a parklet. Again, I just think that it would seem to make sense if, and I could be reading this wrong, that we would just sort of sync the language for both the actions here, for both usages, whether we're talking about the roadways or whether we're talking about the parklets.
Thank you. I actually was under the impression that the reason why it was month to month was because we were coming up with the design standards. And so it was for that purpose that we were month to month. And in fact, the intention was to essentially have them synced. Would anyone like to comment on that?
I'm actually, I apologize if you'll give me a minute. I'm actually trying to get to the requisite language before I speak up, but I'll be there momentarily.
And I'll just add so quickly, I'm really not, wanting this necessarily to be a hiccup for anyone, but just to say that I would be most supportive of something that has the same language regarding to both of these usages. And so that's just where I want to end. And so we're clear there. And what I was concerned of is a scenario where the city attorney or staff says that's not legally possible. And so if that's not the case, then I would like them synced. Or else I would want some clear legal reasoning as to why they can't be synced.
Yeah, thank you. So the ordinance itself does not actually specify that the temporary outdoor use permits can only occupy off-street parking spaces on a month-to-month basis. That's the program that the city manager, that the council has delegated authority to the city manager to establish. That provision is in the city manager's program. And that can be changed. The council could provide direction to the city manager to change that. And I do not see a legal reason why they can't be synced up. Again, the city has the authority to utilize its right of way in the manner that it deems fit. So if we wanted to remove that month to month basis provision in the use permit program, then that I would be comfortable with that, but I would, defer to the city manager for his preferences based on what he had said earlier.
I could.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, yes. So let's see this. As the city attorney said, it's not, and that was one thing that I was scanning as well, as whether or not the ordinance said it. So it's not an ordinance. We do have two, as the council may recall, two sets of, or at least you can think of it as two sets of parklets, and there's been references to those, especially through from the Chamber of Commerce this evening, the kind of, we'll call it the original 6 parklets. So as council may recall, those 6 are tied to a license agreement when those were approved. Those were much more extensive, including city funds to construct those. My recollection is that those license agreements, as of the fall of 2021, kind of moved to a month-to-month basis. So we've got that bucket of 6 or so, I'll say kind of the more the parklets that predate the pandemic. Those are technically in the month-to-month basis, and we're just trying to keep that going. So then there's the parklets established or modified or expended as part of the series of urgency ordinances to date. Those, I would say the intent is to keep those with the same language about the street closures. So that's definitely the intent. So taken the comments tonight under advisement, but there is actually a difference in the two different parklet types. So we don't want to give the any of the parklets that were subject to the license agreements. We definitely want to revisit those at the appropriate time. And I'd say it's not tonight to revisit those.
So yes, it's not on the agenda tonight, but we are working on a soon to come to the city council agenda item that will talk about design standards and connectivity and consistency in how we're marketing and opportunities to beautify even more in that downtown area. So it's very fresh and present, and I would expect that that report would come to the council. Of course, it's easy for me to say in the next 3 to 12 months.
Councilmember Mueller, you had your hand up. Did you want to add anything?
Well, I think professional staff covered it really well. I mean, so speaking to Councilmember Combs, I think that, and actually Mayor Nash, you covered it well as well. I think the idea here is that we're trying to just delineate between the two because the design standards are coming. And so, I mean, certainly we could go ahead and decide that we're not going to implement to those at a later time, but it's been my impression that the council knows that it wants to keep those parklets after the pandemic. And so, you know, having the ability to start to implement those design standards earlier than later, I think is a good thing. So I don't know, but that's candidly just where I'm at on the issue.
Councilmember Combs.
Yeah, so completely appreciate the explanation. And so, yeah, with regards to the pre-pandemic parklets, that's a different class and situation. And so then my desire would be for the pandemic parklets to be synced with the road closure, because like I said, Ryan's Lane is a road closure, so it's in theory open-ended, but Carpaccio's is using it as a parklet. And so that puts them in a different, the usage is the same, but it seems to favor them or puts them in a favorable position with regards in comparison to the parklets. And so that was my concern. But since I appreciate everyone's efforts to address this, I'll just sort of dive in very quickly to how I'm leaning, and I am leaning towards, obviously open to hearing from my colleagues, to a continuation of the street closures, and obviously a continuation of the parklet program. I hear the concerns of businesses, but also what's top of mind for me is that for many years, even years predating my arrival in Menlo Park, we have been thinking of how you sort of reimagine, reinvigorate the downtown proper area, which is the Santa Cruz Strip, and nothing has stuck. We even have a specific plan called the downtown specific plan, and as of to date, there has been no actual projects downtown as a result of the downtown specific plan. There have been temporary paseo efforts that have come and gone and really not attracted much support among the public, or certainly attracted a very active and vigorous opposition. And so when it comes to, and again, I think the main street closure we're talking about is Santa Cruz. I don't know that I've seen any emails that have specifically concerned about the Ryan Lane closure. And so, but the Santa Cruz closure is one that goes towards that reimagining, that look to what downtown might be in the future, and it has been successful. And so I'd like to see how that plays out a little bit longer. before I change that. Again, especially given that there is a track record, there is a long graveyard of efforts to revitalize and relook at downtown that have not been successful. And this is something that has been successful. And so I do hear the concerns of some of the other businesses, but I do think this is a foothold into a future of downtown, which I think we should preserve at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other comments? Councilmember Mueller.
Thank you, Mayor Nash. So I'm in agreement. And candidly, the pandemic is still going. And I know firsthand, I had COVID earlier this month and was coughing pretty significantly up until yesterday, and finally am not anymore. So where we go next in the pandemic is uncertain. Hopefully we'll continue if we get variants. Actually, Omicron's bizarre because it actually social distancing that we experienced when we first closed the streets really isn't as effective back then. We're just lucky that its virulence is lower, but we could be in a situation where virulence will be high with the same level of spread that we see with Omicron. So I'm not going to be in favor of taking down these parklets while and opening the street while the pandemic is still going. But that being said, too, I think I have a duty of transparency to go ahead and share with downtown merchants that the vision that I have for the downtown, in whatever amount of time I'm still able to serve on this council, includes keeping that stretch of street closed and seeing if we can actually extend street closures to other areas of the street, and making that possible through the addition of a parking garage downtown with housing on top, finding the location for a small 2-3 screen movie theater where the city owned the land, so it could be treated like a public amenity, and we could keep it low so we could do film festivals, but also bring in an operator who could show first run movies, much like ski resorts do. So we're in a visioning process for the downtown right now that we're working on. And I understand that there are merchants in the downtown who have started a parallel visioning process around trying to create it and make it a design ecosystem. And I support that. I want the city to work with those merchants. But the downtown isn't just for the merchants who want it to be a design ecosystem. It's for the residents of Menlo Park. And we need to design a downtown that serves us all. And so I think that's what we're trying to do. And we want to do it in a manner that allows all of our businesses to thrive. And through this pandemic, I think we've done that and listened when first we shut the streets, and then we opened most of them, but for this portion that has seen success, and it has actually elicited quite a bit of public support. And so as a place that people could gather together and be community at a time when there aren't a lot of places that you can do that. So I appreciate very much that the frustration that our merchants have with the economy right now, and in the position we're in, and any way that we can work with you to help, we want to do that. But I'm not ready, specifically at this time, not ready to go ahead and reopen the street because of where we are in the pandemic. And then we can have the discussion at a later date of what the vision is for the downtown when that governor's order ends. And then we have some decisions to make. So that's where I am, and really appreciate the opportunity. Mayor Nash, I've enjoyed working with you on the subcommittee, and looking forward to hearing how the rest of our colleagues feel about this issue.
Thank you, Councilmember Mueller. And yes, I also support what has been voiced here and extending both the street closure and the parklets. Are there other council members who would like to comment at this time, or Councilmember Willison?
Thanks, Mayor Nash. Yeah, I want to thank Mr. Beltramo and the other gentleman who made a public comment. And I appreciate the survey data that was sent in and the videos and the perspective. And my heart goes out to the downtown community because it does sound like this has been a bit of a emotional topic for the downtown merchants. And I think we're all in a heightened state of anxiety right now. So I can see how personal and emotional this would be. I'll cut to the chase here that I'm also in support, as my colleagues are, of maintaining and continuing what we have now. My daughter was out in front of Walgreens today. You know, I haven't heard, I don't think, from any residents that don't want to keep it. And whenever it comes up, people are like, of course you would keep it. So as representatives of residents, obviously, I think this is one where those of us on council feel that our community members want this. And that's where a little bit of the disconnect is for me personally, because I'm like, well, if the residents and people like it, they're the ones going to the businesses. So I would just put a shout out here for residents who enjoy it, go down there and walk around and shop. So that would be my plug. And then just in terms of the visioning process for downtown, I want to make sure, and this might be a question for staff because that was referenced, because I'm not aware of any formal visioning process that's ongoing. I know we've engaged with an economic consultant. But one thing I know we, at a previous meeting this year, kind of disbanded the rail subcommittee, disbanded the housing element subcommittee, because all council members really want to be involved in this stuff. And I know that's not agendized for tonight, but I just want to make sure we're making some of these decisions and having these processes so that all of us, and especially the public, can be part of it. So I'll, if you want to, I don't know, interim city manager want to say anything about that?
Let's see. So I can just at least speak to the fact that there's the, I can't speak to exactly what the, I think it was maybe Councilmember Mueller that used the word, so I can defer to him, but I know that there is on the council's priorities from last year, there is a topic related to downtown. I'm not sure that the council got an opportunity last year to really gel in terms of exactly what that was, but I know that it was a high priority item for the council. So, and I know that there is the market study that is just about being finalized for downtown. I can look to our outgoing city manager to talk about that if you'd like. She's been more involved with that, and handing it over to me shortly. And so, and I also can speak to the city's housing element update, for which some of the downtown parking plazas are prime opportunities for future housing. So I think there, and the last couple of things I'll point to are things that the development projects that are coming to fruition, one being the Guild Theater, as you know, is looking to open in February, and then two mixed use developments, the Spring Line and Middle Plaza, even though those are not immediately downtown, as Councilmember Combs was talking about, that they do bring a number of additional residents and employees that could patronize downtown. So I think there's quite a bit of activity downtown, but I think it's subject to upcoming council meetings in terms of exactly what that future discussions and kind of evolution of the specific plan would be this coming year.
So if I can just add to that, we have tasked our consultants with putting together a timeline for items like the infrastructure improvement, or if we were going to do a specific plan update or amendment. And I think that'll be very helpful in setting expectations on by the council and by the staff in terms of what the priorities are from the council. And that, again, that should come back in the next 3 to 6 months, I think.
Thank you. And just to add a little bit, I am not aware of any specific efforts at this point to do any envisioning, reimagining, exactly as interim city manager Justin Murphy explained. There's sort of this, everything's sort of pointing between the market study that we're going to be receiving from the final version from the HCL consultants, and also with the housing element, and then with the pandemic, with these the street closure and the parklets. And I think everything's sort of just focusing that we will be doing that sort of naturally from all of these different efforts, but nothing has started at this point.
I would just call out that our wonderful public works team is working on, I think, an RFP for, or they may be slightly beyond that, for crossing El Camino. And I think what we've heard from a number of developers that improving the crosswalks across El Camino is really critical to the vibrancy downtown. So there are a couple of things in the works. They're still in the works.
That gets me excited. So is that going to be coming to council?
Yes, that will come to council.
Okay, great.
And I guess I'll just elaborate a little bit more on my decision. I do want to acknowledge that many businesses are struggling to survive. Retailers have seen the impacts of rising e-commerce for years, and those trends were have been aggravated by the arrival of the pandemic and emergency shutdown orders. The restaurant businesses were dramatically impacted with those pandemic emergency shutdown orders as well. And in addition, I attend the Business Alliance meeting, downtown monthly meetings, and businesses, both retailers and restaurants, are further stressed. There's been a lot of talk about the supply chain issues that we hear about in the news. It's directly affecting our downtown merchants as well. The parklet and street closure experiments, they were adopted to help the restaurants survive and enable residents to eat out safely, and they've proven wildly popular among residents, even as indoor dining is permitted. The outdoor dining, as Ms. Daly said, with Cafe Zoe, it's there, as we all know, the outdoor dining has been wildly popular. And while closing some of the blocks of the street have been perceived as burdening our retail businesses, I think it's really difficult to untangle how much the street closure contributes to these burdens. Downtown activity is up dramatically in 2021, with many people coming downtown to just eat, stroll, hang out. As you were saying, the students are just, it's so lively down there after school. It's really exciting. At the last Business Alliance meeting, the Walgreens manager was there and was talking about how it's the students, it actually has increased business for Walgreens, where students are going in, there's more kids out, there's more adults out, and they've actually have benefited from the street closures there. And he was talking, basically, there's been no concerns about having more people there with trash, with he has not seen issues there, as was echoed by many, some of the other businesses. And this increased foot traffic and activity produces more retail customers. So today we have one block of Santa Cruz Avenue closed, and it's being actively used. It's generating pedestrian traffic for the entire downtown area. And as Vice Mayor Willison said, we've heard just wildly enthusiastic comments from residents who want this to continue and possibly be extended. I also see fewer empty storefronts on Santa Cruz Avenue, and with the new developments coming with the park, with the Spring Line and the Guild in the Middle Out Plaza, as well as other smaller residential developments, we're going to be seeing more and more activity downtown, and I think it's really exciting. And that means new customers to the local restaurants and retailers. And so I, as stated before, believe that the current configuration should continue. And I think for now, we found the right balance. With that, I want to turn to Councilmember Taylor and see if you have anything to add to the conversation.
Thank you, Mayor Nash. My questions have actually been answered. I do not have anything to add. I do have a question about the HDL downtown market study. Is that going to come to the council once the final draft is finished?
Yes, Councilmember Taylor, we will bring it back as an info item at a meeting in the near future.
Okay, thank you. And my second question is the business task force. Are you meeting? Is the business task force meeting?
Yes, you're talking about Councilmember Mueller and myself.
Yes.
Yes, we've met with the consultants last week, and we're meeting again, I believe, this week to discuss the market study.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm supportive of the street closure, and I don't have any other input. Thank you.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
Mayor Nash,
Yeah,
I apologize. My hand is still raised.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Mueller.
Yeah, I just wanted to make the share with my colleagues. While we don't have a formal visioning process taking place, and dear God, I don't want one, because we had one. It was the specific plan, and that visioning process has been filling out over time, and we see that happening with Spring Line and the restaurants that are opening there. And we study that with the specific plan amendment that brought us the Guild. And we see that happening on Santa Cruz with the redevelopment that's taking place there now, that started to happen there. And even within the specific plan, it allowed us to do these parklets that was there. And so the difference is the street closure, which is an organic visioning over time. But I would suggest too that the filling out of that specific plan is happening organically now. And we're going to see that through our housing element when we make the decisions about whether or not, if we do put housing on the parking lots downtown, whether or not we include mixed use, whether or not we include the ability to put in a parking garage, whether or not we allow another entertainment use for that middle segment of high schoolers and young adults, and just people who want to do something other than go see live music. So I just wanted to make clear, like, we're going to come to have this market study come back. I am not proposing, and I hope we never do a visioning process, because we've done it. And I think what people in our city are hungry for now is action. And so I hope that in our discussions like that, we are all starting to formulate a vision of what we think that downtown will look like, so that we can move that ball forward boldly. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Willison.
Thank you, Mayor Nash and Councilmember Mueller. I appreciate that clarification. I just, this is kind of going back to my comment earlier about the subcommittee. I just would like to request that the subcommittee doesn't get too far ahead of the council. It is my, because I was on some subcommittees, and they basically got disbanded because people felt that they were not included in some ways, or that, so I would just request that if there's decisions being made or plans being formulated, that it's looping back with the whole council. Thank you.
We will make sure to do that. Thank you. Councilmember
I just want to, for the record, state that I never asked for any subcommittee to be disbanded. Just to be clear, wasn't me.
Thank you. All right. Would anyone like to make a motion? I will go ahead and move then that we adopt the staff recommendations. And if there's, go ahead, Councilmember Combs. I think you were going to say, I wanted to make sure that any alignment of the parklets with the street closure is made, and I'm not sure exactly how to go about doing that.
Yeah, I was just going to second whatever. That's all I was going to do. So yeah, and I think the alignment point has been made clear, and you've restated it.
Thank you. City Clerk Karen, could you please state the motion and call for the vote?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Nash. Just for clarity, are we adding the alignment of the parklet permits as well as the street closure deadlines or expiration dates, or are we doing a motion based on staff's recommendations?
So my understanding would be it would be staff recommendations, but for the class of parklets that date to the pandemic, that they would go to not the sort of month to month, but that they would be, the timeline would be open-ended to align with the street closures. And so I see the city attorney has come on.
Through the mayor, if I may.
Yes.
I think the direction with respect to the month-to-month modifications is separate from the motion that's before you on the urgency ordinance, because again, the month-to-month provisions have been established by the city manager as a part of the program and are not actually a part of the urgency ordinance. So my recommendation would be to make a motion on just the urgency ordinance and then separately provide the city manager the direction that Councilmember Combs just articulated.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that clarity, City Attorney Doherty. So I have a motion on the floor by Mayor Nash and a second by City Council Member Combs to adopt an urgency ordinance to continue the downtown street closure program to reflect continued temporary closure of the northbound 600 block of Santa Cruz Avenue and a portion of Ryan's Lane. Any further City Council question or discussion? Seeing some, okay, by roll call vote, City Council Member Combs.
Yes, I was just getting prepared.
City Council Member Mueller,
Yes.
City Council Member Taylor,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Willison,
Yes.
Mayor Nash.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Excuse me, City Clerk Karen, do we need to do, is there a second part to this or are we ready to move on?
I believe that the direction's been given and according to City Attorney Doherty.
Perfect.
I think we're good. We can move
Excellent.
to.
Thank you.
Q2. Mhm.
All right. So the next regular business item is G2 to provide feedback on the Caltrain Quiet Zone Implementation Plan request for proposals. To introduce this item is Assistant Public Works Director Hugh Lauch.
Thank you, Mayor Nash, and council members. Appreciate the opportunity to bring this forward to you today. We know that the quiet zone work that's been proposed for the city is something that's of a lot of interest to a lot of folks. We've received a lot of feedback from folks, including some just as recently as yesterday. And we look forward to hearing more tonight. To present this item, I'm joined by Associate Transportation Engineer Fong Vo, who would be the project manager for us for the study once we get it started. So I'm going to hand it over to Fong. He'll walk through a presentation and then we'll take any questions that you have.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good evening, Mayor Nash and council member. Good evening, everybody. My name is Fong Vo. Today I'm going to talk about Caltrain quiet zone. This is the outline of my presentation. It includes the objective, quiet zone
Fong,
background.
you're not sharing your screen
Oh.
yet. Sorry. There we go. Then you need to, yeah, there you go.
Okay, thank you. Let me start again. Good evening, Mayor Nash and council member. My name is Fong Vo. Tonight, I'm going to talk about the Caltrain quiet zone. This is the outline of my presentation tonight. It includes the objective, the quiet zone background and requirement, draft request for proposal, question and discussion. The main objective of the presentation tonight is to provide information to the City Council and public on the quiet zone requirement and opportunity, receive the feedback from the City Council and the public on draft request for proposal, scope of work, and select criteria. Let's talk about the project backgrounds. As shown in the figure, Caltrain have 4 at-grade crossing with 0.2 miles apart. In addition, there is 1 pedestrian crossing north of Ravenwood Avenue. There is no existing quiet zone, so the train activates horn 4 times at a quarter miles before it crossing, which results in a 16 blast per train over 0.6 mile segment. The city received complaints from residents and business owner about the volume, frequency, duration, and the time frame of the train horn. A quiet zone will request to be implemented in the city of Menlo Park. The Federal Rail Administration minimum requirement for a quiet zone. Its crossing must have gates, flashing lights, warning time device, can include 1 or multiple crossing, must be at least half a mile in total length, must have a non-quiet zone crossing within a quarter mile of the first or last crossing in the zone. Quiet zone can be implemented by installing specific safety improvement or installing alternate improvement that reduce the risk at crossing. Quiet zone safety improvement include crossing closer or raised separation or 4 quadrant gate system. The bottom left figure show the 4 quadrant gates installed in the city of Arlington at Fair Oakland. It has enter and exit gates for each travel direction. The top right show the gate with generalization device, and the bottom right figure show the gate with median. Last but not least is the wayside horn. A wayside horn is a stationary horn that is crossing instead of the train horn. I will talk about the main task for the request for proposal. At the kickoff meeting, the consultant will meet with the city staff to finalize the scope, schedule, and outreach plan. Task, document review, data collection, and field survey. Consultant will conduct site visit, review existing condition, review FRA policy and requirement. The quiet zone analysis identifies and evaluate different options for achieving a quiet zone, calculate risk index, develop recommendation for safety improvement at each crossing, cost estimate, develop a cost estimate for different options, draft and final report. The report will document and summarize the findings related to the implementation of a quiet zone. The reports will also include proposed improvements for each crossing, risk index, cost estimate, and the timeline for implementation. We published the draft RFP through the Rail Subcommittee, but the meeting were canceled in November. We received feedback from residents of Menlo Park and we really appreciate the public input. We revised the draft IFP to include the feedback from public. We named the study to be implementation plan, clarify the scope, indicate that we are interested in understanding the full range of options for implementing a quiet zone, including the pedestrian crossing. Mixed feedback on potentially include the Palo Alto Avenue crossing in the RFP. Request from the City Council, provide the feedback on the RFP scope of work and selection criteria. Next step, incorporate the feedback from the City Council and community. Release the RFP in February, select consultant and negotiate the contract. Return to the Council to authorize the agreement in April. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. City Clerk Heron, could you please call for public comment on this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Nash. So at this time, if any member of the public wishes to speak on item G2, provide feedback on the Caltrain Quiet Zone Implementation Plan request for proposals, please engage that hand feature in the bottom of your screen. If you are calling in from a landline or a cell phone, please press *9 now. And our first speaker will be Marcy Abramowitz. Marcy, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yep. Or can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good evening. I'm speaking on behalf of several neighborhoods along the Caltrain line, including Park Forest, the Marquee, Felton Gables, San Antonio Avenue, Mills Court, Mills Street, the Classics at Burgess, and Linfield Oaks. First, we wish to thank Council for establishing the Quiet Zone as a capital improvement project and seeding this fund with Springline's public benefit dollars. It'll obviously take a lot more than $300,000 to pursue a quiet zone, but we very much appreciate the stake in the ground and the public demonstration of support. With regard to the RFP, as residents, we have sought to educate ourselves on quiet zones. And we're now a lot smarter than we used to be, but we are not experts. So beyond noting the omission of the pedestrian crossing, we won't weigh in on the details of the RFP. We do, however, want to convey our belief that the goal should be the goal of the selection should be engaging a consultant with the most knowledge and experience relevant to our particular situation in Menlo Park. I'll also take this opportunity to restate that as residents, we are very willing to participate in any manner that would be helpful to the city. And as a community, we're thrilled to be embarking on this implementation study and are committed to making the quiet zone a reality. Thank you all very much for your support.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker will be Adina Levin.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. Adina Levin. I'm on the Menlo Park Complete Streets Commission, but speaking for myself. And like the previous speaker said, I am glad to be seeing this moving ahead. You know, the long-term solution to alleviating more of the train noise is grade separations, but there's no telling how long that will take. And if we can have like a decade of people being able to sleep at night, it is worth pursuing this. And especially since the 4th Street in Menlo Park is going to stay open, or is not going to get separated. Looking at this is useful for a longer period of time. The other topic that I wanted to mention is the mention of the Palo Alto Avenue, which is of course located in Palo Alto, but the horn noise is disturbing to people who are in Menlo Park as well as Palo Alto. And it said in the staff report that the city had gotten some mixed feedback on that. And so I did reach out to some people in Palo Alto in that neighborhood that have been supporting quiet zones. And I think that you may have heard correspondence. I think they have a 200-person petition in favor of quiet zones. So I do hope that the city does include that in the study, although, if it comes to implementation, it would make 100% sense for Palo Alto to chip in for the physical implementation expenses for the improvements that are located in the city of Palo Alto. And, in between now and then to reach out to figure out how Palo Alto can cover the costs of things that are in Palo Alto, but, pursuing that since it is something that the noise affects people in both cities. I do support doing that as well. So glad to see this moving forward. And I do hope that the city approves it, including the Palo Alto Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker will be Adrian Brandt.
Yes, good evening. Thank you. My name is Adrian Brandt. I'm on the Citizens Advisory Committee for Caltrain, speaking for myself. I am in support of this RFP and of the whole notion of quiet zones. I will note that Atherton is in the process now, following the closure of the permanent closure of the Atherton station, working with Caltrain. They have about $1 million project to reconfigure the Watkins Crossing, which is also one within earshot of Menlo Park residents. The Watkins Crossing, of course, is still a non-quiet zone. The Fair Oaks Lane Crossing, their only other crossing, is the first and only quiet zone on the Caltrain line. So I would just note that they are seeking to make that a quiet zone. And that's also an opportunity for Menlo Park staff to liaise with Atherton staff who have already successfully gone through the quiet zone establishment process on the Caltrain line. Again, the first cities to have done so. I'll also note that the approximate 50-mile SMART line, the Sonoma Marin Area Rail Transit line from Larkspur to Santa Rosa, relatively new system. Everyone up there was horrified at the idea of having horns. And so every jurisdiction up and down that line worked together and separately, the counties and the various cities, to essentially create a quiet zone the entire length of that system. So there again is a local Bay Area opportunity for Menlo Park staff to liaise with and understand what they stand on their shoulders and learn from what they went through. Since there are over 1,000 quiet zones across the U.S., not rocket science. And I would also note that in the staff presentation, there was an allusion to wayside horns. I would urge Menlo Park citizens and staff to avoid any solution with wayside horns, because what that is supplanting the train horn with a stationary horn at the crossing, which sort of goes against the spirit of a quiet zone somewhat, because it continues to blow from a stationary point at the crossing instead of on the locomotive. Their quiet zones can be established without that, and it's just a matter of getting the safety quotient, the risk index, down to an acceptable level. I've also seen quiet zones in Florida, in West Palm Beach, so they're all over the place. So I can't support this more. Can't be more in favor of this. Grade separations are a long ways off, and quiet zones make a lot of sense. So yes, thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker will be Susanna Ragam. Susanna, are you able to unmute yourself?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I apologize. No, I just wanted to thank the city council for moving the implementation of the quiet zones forward. I know this is a very hot topic, and I very much enjoyed the presentation, and I hope that we can expediently move forward with the RFP process. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And our next speaker will be George Ugras.
Yes, good evening. I assume you can hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Good. Just a couple of quick comments. One is, obviously, this is an issue that has been on the agenda on and off for the last 14 years plus. And we came very close to doing this as the city, as you may recall, during the last decade. And it was delayed by one of our prior mayors. And the idea was to wait and see how Atherton does, and Atherton has done fine. So I think the risk profile has gone down because we've seen other towns do it. The second comment I wanted to make is we've been actually coordinating with our neighbors in Palo Alto, who are very concerned about the Palo Alto Avenue crossing. And their city council is also very interested in moving forward with a study with that intersection. So hopefully we'll be able to coordinate with Palo Alto on this project, at least as far as Palo Alto Avenue crossing is concerned. The third piece is on the cost item. Since the 4-gate option is sufficient, frankly, from a cost standpoint, since a lot of safety improvements have been done on many of these intersections, hopefully the cost profile will not be that high. And my final comment is for those of us who live in Linfield Oaks, if you look at a map, there is many more actually, Menlo Park residents impacted by the Palo Alto Avenue crossing than Palo Alto residents. And after the constructions are finished, that have been finished actually on El Camino, the train noise pretty much completely reflects back into our neighborhood. So the noise level has almost doubled since that construction has been finished in the last 6 months, which might be why this is kind of getting more attention in our community. So I sincerely hope that you include the Palo Alto Avenue crossing as it impacts the livelihood of so many Menlo Park residents. Thank you so much for considering us.
Thank you for your comment. This will be the final call for public comment on item G2 related to the Caltrain quiet zone. Seeing no further hands raised, Mayor Nash, you may continue.
Thank you very much. And thank you to all the public commenters. We really appreciate your input. Bringing it back to open for council, city council discussion. Would anyone like to start it off? Vice Mayor Willison.
Thank you, Mayor Nash, and thank you to our public commenters who pointed out many different points about quiet zones. And I hope staff was taking some notes on some of those really great suggestions. A few things, as Mr. Ugras, I believe, who lives in Linfield Oaks, the last speaker, just said that the Palo Alto crossing noise really impacts Menlo Park residents. So I am in support of the staff's recommendations of including Palo Alto in the RFP. And to Mr., I apologize if I'm ruining your name, George. And as George mentioned, that the Palo Alto City Council, some members are interested as well. I'm actually going to be meeting with 2 of them coming up to discuss. So I'll report back as I learn more on that. And I really, this is obviously something near and dear to District 3. And especially as we look at the housing element and site selection and the developments that we have coming online, we're just going to have more and more people residing, dining, living their lives along the corridor. So this makes a lot of sense. I do want to elevate the two requests that Marcy Abramowitz and the other residents who have really become quiet zone experts have that would like to see in the RFP, and check in with staff that is feasible, that we're able to incorporate those. One would be the pedestrian crossing ask that that's called out and specifically addressed and mentioned. And the second is this California-based quiet zone experience as a qualifier for the consultant or engineer. And I'll even go one step further, successful implementation in California, because it's my understanding that there's been some communities that have tried and it didn't go so well. So if those two additions or modifications can be made, I think that's going to make a lot of people feeling a lot more comfortable in the direction that we're moving. And I do just want to point out, I believe it was Susanna Ragab, who's super excited about this, which we all are. I just want to clarify that this is a study on the implementation of what it would take to implement a quiet zone. The council is obviously very interested in the quiet zone, but the council has not yet committed to spending the money, prioritizing. There's a whole decision that we're going to have to make once the results of this study come out. So although we're all kind of crossing our fingers and hoping for good news that makes it feasible and economical and it makes a lot of sense, because we know a lot of community members want it, I just want to set expectations on where we're at in the process and not get too far ahead of ourselves. That being said, this is an exciting step. I really want to commend staff for bringing it back, making sure it's just right so that we measure twice, cut once, and do this in a way that all community members are feeling heard and feeling good about. So Mr. Louch, did you have any feedback on, through the mayor, on those two modifications to the RFP regarding the pedestrian crossing and the California-based success?
Sure, yeah, through the mayor, if I may, we do mention the pedestrian crossing specifically in the RFP, but we can make clear that we will look that we are looking at that. It is meant to be clear. So if that didn't come through, we'll make sure it does. Pedestrian crossings are a little more complicated, and so we definitely will want some really good advice to make sure that we're addressing those issues appropriately. It's a little different than vehicle crossings. That being said, we absolutely intend to get to the second point, to get someone with California-based experience and someone who has hopefully shepherded one of these processes through and gotten it to work. So yeah, we can make sure that we, if we didn't include that in the criteria, we can make sure that we include California experience within that. Obviously, we have our own unique situation in California because we like to have our own on everything. So we have to work with CPUC in addition to with FRA requirements. So we will definitely mention California as part of that. And of course, I would just say with all of these things, what we want to do is get the best qualified consultant that we can get, who has the appropriate experience in any situation. So of course, in this case, that would apply as well.
May I? Thank you, Mr. Louch. And as a follow-up, I know that that those qualifications are super important and will be highly evaluated to pick the right firm. I know cost is also a factor. Is this one of those RFPs where the city is obligated to pick the lowest cost vendor, or due to the specialized nature of what we're looking for, making sure they've been successful in California, whatnot, that that it's more, the cost isn't the number one driver?
I think we'll have to look and make sure, but I believe, and I might look to our city attorney to verify this, that we can do a qualification-based selection for this work. We certainly won't have to take somebody who is unqualified or that we believe not to be qualified. But yeah, let the city attorney speak.
Agree with that. Verbatim, well said.
Thanks.
The city has pretty wide latitude in terms of its internal qualification criteria. that has been adopted by ordinance in the municipal code.
That's wonderful. Then I'm excited to see this go. And I'll turn it over to my colleagues. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Combs.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Nash. I want to understand a little bit more the optionality around Palo Alto Avenue. So what would that mean? Would that mean that you, as part of the RFP, you would ask for a proposal that included Palo Alto Avenue and one that didn't? And so then we could see that cost difference? Or is it just that you want the authority to include Palo Alto Avenue in the request for in the RFP?
Yeah, thank you, through Mayor, if I may. The way the RFP is written, it's the first thing that you said. So ask proposers to tell us what it would, what it would cost for them to do the work for us for the core Menlo Park crossings, and then what the additional fee would be to also look at Palo Alto, and just trying to be budget conscious and recognize that we may or may not have had the resources available in this project at the time to be able to do all of that work. So that would be something we'd want to just be careful of if we weren't able to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Louch. I'm supportive of this moving forward.
Are there any other council member comments? I'm also supportive. Is someone interested in making a motion? Vice Mayor Willison.
Yeah, I will move to go ahead and issue this RFP or whatever we're supposed to say.
Is there a second?
I'll say, I see Councilmember Taylor's hand.
Oh, Councilmember Taylor.
Thank you. I'll second.
Thank you. City Clerk Karen, would you please state the motion and call for the vote?
Thank you, Mayor Nash. I'm just reading the recommendation and trying to come up with the motion as it should be stated.
And City Clerk Karen, I believe that we may just, and we can also call in the city attorney. I'm not sure that the council needs to fully authorize the issuance of the RFP, but it's kind of directing staff to incorporate the feedback that we heard this evening to be able to then proceed. So it's kind of a little bit nuanced, and that's why I think the city clerk is spending a little bit of time on that. So for tonight, our main objective was to make sure that there's the public comment, which we received in writing and orally this evening, received the feedback from the city council. And as Vice Mayor Willison said, it was the measure twice, cut once, but I believe it's within staff's authority to actually issue the RFP. So the main direction tonight is to incorporate the additional feedback.
Thank you, Interim City Manager Murphy. So the motion I have by Vice Mayor Willison and the second by City Council Member Taylor is to authorize the Quiet Zone Implementation Plan request for proposals per the feedback of the City Council. Any further City Council question or discussion? Seeing none, by roll call vote, City Council Member Combs.
Yes.
City Council Member Mueller. City Council Member Mueller.
Sorry, I have a wireless mouse and sometimes it doesn't connect. It drives me crazy. Yes.
Thank you. City Council Member Taylor.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Willison.
Yes.
Mayor Nash.
Yes.
And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Information items are transmitted to the City Council in staff's effort to provide an update on matters of importance to the City Council. Information items are not action items. However, a city council member, city staff member, or a member of the public may request to make a comment or ask a question on any of the informational items. City Clerk Heron, do we have any public comments on the information items?
Thank you, Mayor Nash. So at this time, if any member of the public wishes to speak on tonight's Informational items, H1, City Council agenda topics. H2, Police Department quarterly update. H3, Personnel Activity Report. Please engage that hand feature in the bottom of your screen. If you are calling in from a landline or a cell phone, please press *9 now. This will be the final call for public comment on tonight's informational items, H1 through H3. Seeing no hands raised, Mayor Nash, you may continue.
Thank you. Are there any city council questions on any of this information items? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead with the city manager's report. And that would be interim city manager Justin Murphy.
Yes, good evening. So just to reiterate for people that weren't tuned in at the beginning of the meeting, we just want to be able to start the process of celebrating the opening of the pedestrian bridge and the new Meta Park. Provides many years in the making, provides an exciting opportunity for Bellhaven residents to avoid Bayfront Expressway and walk from or bike from the neighborhood to the Bay Trail and onto Bedwell Bayfront Park. Later this year, there'll be a new trail connection from the Bay Trail directly to Bayfront Park in the vicinity of Chilco. So a lot of people involved, from the visioning to the implementation to coordination with Caltrain's PG&E. So looking forward to that opening this weekend. Another item I'd like to provide is an update on the housing element process. As the council may recall, staff has committed to providing updates regarding the housing element at every meeting. So if there's not a actual staff report on the topic, we're providing oral report. So for this evening, I'd like to talk about that last night, the Planning Commission conducted the EIR scoping session. This is one of the first steps in the environmental review process and provides an opportunity for interested members of the public and agencies to provide comments on the scope of the EIR. Members of the public and the planning commissioners provided comments on potential alternative scenarios and other aspects of the housing element to be considered, such as schools and development standards. The comment period for the notice of preparation for this environmental impact report ends next Monday, January 31st. So that's a Monday, January 31st. All comments received will be considered during the preparation of the environmental impact report. So in addition, members of the public are also invited to attend an upcoming community meeting on Saturday, February 12th from 10 a.m. to noon. And that's a Saturday meeting, February 12th from 10 a.m. to noon. The meeting will provide an overview of the potential housing opportunity sites and identified land use strategies that the council discussed in the fall and have been continue to evolve, and then focus on housing goals and policy themes. The meeting will be conducted virtually, including Spanish interpretation translation. The meeting information is available at the Housing Element webpage. So as you are aware, this city's has a new website that starts with the beta.menlopark.org, but anybody could type in menlopark.org/housing element, and it will take you to the appropriate page. So that's menlopark.org/housing element, all one word. So those are two updates of activities, and then I would just like to take the opportunity one last time to express my appreciation to my colleague. It's been a pleasure serving with you the past few years. I think it's a great opportunity that we're able to sit at the same table tonight. So I appreciate the opportunity to have the transition and work side by side with her. And I continue looking forward to seeing her around town and to continuing on with my interim role. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any reports from city council members since the January 11th city council meeting? All right, thank you. So we will go on to closed session. City Clerk Heron, please call for public comment for closed session item K1.
Thank you, Mayor Nash. For any member of the public who wishes to speak on tonight's closed session item K1, conference with legal counsel for existing litigation, please engage that hand feature in the bottom of your screen. If you're calling in from a landline or a cell phone, please press *9 now. This will be the final call for public comment on our closed session item K1. Seeing no hands raised, Mayor Nash, you may continue.
Thank you. So the city council will adjourn this regular meeting and reconvene in closed session. The closed session report out will be at the next regular city council meeting on February 8th. Thank you.